And when I say hold yourself, I want all of you get ready to stop. When I say stop, don't move. And when I say get it, I want all of y'all to go. Hold it now.
Hi, everybody. I love that a song called Boogie Woogie has a drop in it. It's the best thing ever. Hello.
How you doing? We're early and in tired and in sleepies.
No, I'm not sleepy anymore. I'm good.
I'm working on that.
Don't worry, I do not mainline energy drinks. It's just coffee.
It's just a coffee energy. It's the original energy drink. It's the socially acceptable energy drink.
There you go.
The 1850s. I don't.
Hi, everyone, and hi, Logan.
Hi, Angela, and hello, everyone, as well.
Welcome to Discover RPG. We're playing. We're playing. We
We're
are
playing?
playing, but we're talking.
We're playing and talking about like we know what we're talking about.
We're a little early today because, as it says on our stream, it is our Turkey Day Spectacular, which just means we started a little early because Angela has to travel for Thanksgiving. And we are here to talk a little bit about D&D and RPGs and the games that we love and why we love them and what we love about them, etc., etc.
Yeah. That's stuff.
Maybe
I think we have a list somewhere, right?
Are we a golf channel now? Are we doing something different? Or am I close to the subject we're actually going to be speaking of?
No, I think that's fine.
You don't have to golf clap. You can just not push to talk, and you can clap as loud as you want, and it'll be like a golf clap.
But then nobody will hear me clap.
But it's still polite.
I think you look weird because you're just clapping for no reason.
Like we haven't learned how to push to talk when we laugh on stream yet, so everyone breaks out into raucous silence.
Yes, that's true. It's a difficult thing to remember,
We will
especially when you're recording for podcasts.
We can bring that up during our third subject today, crossing the streams. I think that's a consideration.
Yes, it is.
That's a good consideration when you're starting
this beautiful little thingy over here. Is it here? I can't.
The word project is over the amount of money. We can fix it later. It's fine.
Our word project is over the amount of. Oh yeah, because it's too long. Well, that's not the right thing anymore anyway. Although we would still be glad to take your money for a Trevor project, we will absolutely pass that on. So we have that, but all of our little donation things are all screwed up over here too. So our little rotation, it still talks about the Trevor project, and it talks about games and giving things. Fix it in post. Yes, absolutely, Secondhand Samurai. Let's fix it in post. Hey, Secondhand Samurai, do you see our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th item down that list right there? Might have something to do with that awesome company you're involved with.
It might. I don't know. So since we were last live last week, Nerds Giving 2018 wrapped, raising money for the Trevor Project and LGBTQ youth in crisis. We exceeded our expectations more than I thought one could exceed expectations.
What was our goal? We started, 500?
We started with 500.
Which I thought was a little conservative. I thought we hit 1,000.
We were new. We didn't know how.
I'd much rather shoot small and then up the intro and stuff. Exactly. And then we had people who set their own goals at 500, and I was like, oh, that's
stepping up their game, right?
And they did it. They all came together. 13 different shows all coming together. I mean, more than that, because all the directors counted as one kind of lump.
We didn't want to be greedy.
We didn't want to break our shows apart.
We did want to be greedy. Yeah, we wanted to consolidate, but it's fine. It's all for a good cause.
It's all for a good cause. We can be greedy for a good cause.
And we were not eligible for bragging rights because we run the network.
We still bragged a lot.
But we just want, if anybody out there participated in Nerds Giving or donated for Nerds Giving, thank you guys so much. We really, really appreciate you taking the time and energy and money to help raise funds for what we think is a really worthy cause and helps a lot of people and puts a lot of good into the world. So that was our goal, and I think we more than achieved that. So I'm very, very happy.
Yeah. Yeah. So how much were we raising? 3,100-ish?
It was over 3,100. Yeah. Yeah, it was over $3,100.
Somewhere over $3,100. So that was incredible. So we blew away our expectations. 6 times the amount of money we originally thought we'd make.
Well, and the problem now is that Logan has set the goalpost for next year beyond that, and we will have to just work a little harder and get more people involved. And I look forward to
if
it.
you look at our growth for this year, I mean, we're only 8 months in as a network, and we've got all these new shows. We're starting to like figure out what the hell we're doing.
That feels
putting
weird,
on better
right?
and better shows. It's this time next year, we're gonna be.
I'm excited. I'm so excited.
Humongous.
I'm so excited.
And I just
Sorry.
can't.
I was specifically doing the Saved by the Bell Jesse episode.
What about the Jesse episode?
I said I was specifically doing the Saved by the Bell very special episode joke. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I don't remember that one.
Jesse.
I was a Saved by the Bell fanatic.
Jesse took.
Is that the druggy one?
Yeah, it was the drug one.
Yeah, okay. That's only. It's funny. That's been referenced 3 times to me in the last week. I'm like, is there something about me that, like, just this episode keeps getting brought
You're just Jesse Span. You're the Jesse Spano of the group. I don't know what to tell you, Logan.
Basically, Adderall. She was taking Adderall. That's basically what it was. It's like
caffeine pills. Thank you, Matthew.
Was it caffeine pills? Really? Is that what they called it? Oh God!
Come on, it was Saved by the Bell. It was an innocent time.
And then we got kids taking meth.
Gosh, kids taking caffeine. What a horrible thing.
Have you seen the children's television? Oh, that would have been so impressive.
Nope.
You should.
This is a heavy duty can. I'm doing that.
You're like, it's like a tin can. Come on now.
Okay, so
Rainbow Arch Wizard Matthew. I don't recognize that name.
I assume that is a Matthew we know. Confirm. Blink once for yes and twice for no. If it's a Matthew we know.
Is it the Matthew we know?
Is it Matthew S?
Lots of the Matthew.
I'm asking if it's Matthew
S. Is it maths?
Maths. Are you British? Is it maths?
Maths.
I actually personally love that the British call it maths because it's mathematics. It's a plural. It is multiple types of.
That's true.
It is.
Design, Matt S.
Good job, Maths.
Matthew Sainsbury. Very good.
Lord of.
What's his last name?
Lord of.
I'm so sorry.
Sainsbury.
I'm sorry.
Siebert. Matthew Siebert.
Siebert. That was it. Siebert. I think we're going to. We need to talk about having a meeting with Matthew Siebert soon.
Yep. All right, so how about we deal with this thingy over here? That thing,
you got it right. Good job.
I did. I remember. Partly because I have the Twitch layout and my camera up, so I'm like, all right, it's this.
Yeah, I have Twitch and I have my Twitch layout and I've got my camera. I got all sorts of things. So I have too much crap. I have the
and
chat.
Soon we will both have an extra camera at ankle height.
And our puppies, our little puppy cams. I got to get this room cleaned up enough to put the bed down to have the dog in here.
Oh, we'll work on it. We're gonna. That will be that is my New Year's resolution is to have puppy camp set up.
Matt, if you want us to rename you to Matt Sainsbury, we'll do that. I mean, it's just whatever.
In the jurisdiction of Nerdsmith, that shall be your legal name in the Nerdsmith territory.
All right. Parlez-vous Infernal. Should we start talking about Parlez-vous Infernal?
What's hilarious is we're not actually talking about Infernal at all. That is our
the segment.
I know. So, all right. So we're going to talk a little bit about language.
Unless they watched last week's show.
That's true, but there might be several people that haven't. If you're a returning viewer,
people here, I think I recognize them all.
Sure. All right. So Parlez-vous Infernal, we're going to talk a little bit about language. This is a follow-up from last week's episode that Logan posited a question that I still don't really have the answer to, but it has spurred on, I think, a broader discussion about the Kenku, which is a race of sentient crow people. I believe they're crows, maybe ravens. They might be ravens. Cravens, sure.
Or Wes Cravens.
Okay, you need a Kenku named Wes now.
Oh yeah, that's gonna happen.
All right, so Kenku have a unique in the game setting, specifically in, I don't remember, are there Volos perhaps? I think they might be in Volo's guide, that their way of communicating is through mimicry, riffing off of the actual mimicry abilities of several bird species and ravens, crows. And they can know language, but they don't speak a language. They speak in mimicry. And if you're an RPG fan, you probably have heard that Critical Role has an NPC. Matt Mercer has decided to for a little while bring in a young Kenku character as an NPC to follow the party around, and she mimics things that they say. So to great effect when they tried to teach her how to stand up for herself or how to tell people that she is very sweet. And she repeats the terms. Kenku, I have
mimics.
Correct. It sounds like the person that she is mimicking.
By the way, I thought you were talking in caveman for a moment.
What did I do?
They can know language. Like me can language. They can know language. I was like, what? What is going on?
They can know language. They need caveman ESL.
And it's near perfect mimicry to a very creepy degree, which plays off of the I guess not a myth that crows or ravens. We should look that up before we do this. Can mimic the voices of children and things, but I believe it's actually true. It's just maybe not as common as it was in folklore.
I think they avoid calling them anything in D&D Beyond.
They're just birds. They're black birds. Put a bunch of them in a pie and eat away. 24.
That sounds like a horrifying one shot where you're a bunch of Kenkus that a giant has put in a pie.
In a giant pie. So instead of the orc in the meat pie, which is the pinnacle one room dungeon, you could have the 24 Kenku in a cloud giant pie. And then it's an escape one room dungeon, and the room is a giant.
Before we talk about anything that's more canonical about the Kenku, based on purely on that information, the fact that they mimic language, they mimic sounds, whether that's spoken or just environmental sounds. I have now witnessed three attempts to play a Kenku. Matt Mercer being one. Matt Mercer being one. Myself being one in a text-based RPG, and our friend. And
how did you do that? Do you have an out-of-body experience?
No, I don't have a good. My brain is not fast for improv.
look at me like I'm an idiot, and then move on. That's usually what my
gotcha. Speaking of your wife, Tessa is the other person that I have seen play a Kenku.
Rude. I played like a dozen Kenku. What the hell? I guess not played.
I was gonna say not as like a character that like you've implied they're in a scene.
Implied. I think I've outright said they're in a scene, but all right.
But that's actually fine. Portraying.
I'll have one coming.
Sure, great. Actually portraying a Kenku, I have found to be incredibly interesting, but incredibly challenging. Props to Matt Mercer for even attempting to do it for an extended period of time. It requires, depending on how committed you want to be to it, it requires a good memory for what's been going on in the game. It requires very good notes if you want to be referencing things that your other fellow players or your players as a DM have been saying. And it's very, like I said, it's a very interesting muscle to flex while you're role playing. It's a different way of interacting with the world and with characters that I find tremendously interesting, and it was a really cool experience to play a Kenku. I personally, as a claim to fame that I have claimed for myself, earned inspiration from my DM with my very first text post as my Kenku, because I basically turned my character into the first 10 minutes of Up, and it was not fair, and it was mean, but it was wonderful. The fact that you can basically turn your character into a sad Pixar movie with limited language to evoke sad emotions. Kenku can be very potent, and I really, really enjoy that about them. But yeah, very challenging to maintain that. We've heard not criticism, but concern about playing Kenku of losing that ability to have very in-depth one-on-one RP with other players when you're limited by language in that way. It's about thinking outside the box.
Yeah, definitely thinking outside the box. And it's funny because this is one, as Secondhand Samurai just said, this reminds him a lot of Og, the role-playing game, the caveman role-playing game, which we're going to talk about today in our All Systems Go section, because we totally put these two together because they make sense together. But as for the Kenku, yeah, I've never played a Kenku because that is intimidating. It is something that I'm not sure I can do. As somebody who does not do voices very well, I have like 3 voices I can do. I can do the goblin voice, the old man voice, and either one is very good. And then I have just, kind of Logan at varying degrees of yelling.
And various degrees of consonant pronunciation. I know that's a way you tweak your performance a little bit to imply different people.
Talk a little bit more about the mannerisms and how they talk. Chris Farley used to say that every one of his characters is always the same, but just at different volumes. We know, of course, that wasn't true. He's actually very in deep actor and unfortunately a troubled man. But I feel the same way about me sometimes. It's like I'm just at different volumes. It's like I'm quiet and reserved or really loud, even though I have at least in my childhood a lot of acting background. But I just don't feel like it ever comes across really well. And I don't watch myself for the most part, so I'm not going to get any better. This is it. You're going to get what you're going to get. But so the Kenku is very intimidating to do, to think that this idea that you want to try to mimic people. I've tried doing a little mimicry here and there with certain things, and it seems to come across okay. And I love when I pull, like, go really outside the box, and not necessarily for Kenku, but try to pull in a character as an inspiration from something. And I'll use it, and then all of a sudden I'll see it pop up in stream, and somebody says, "Oh my God, this reminds me of this character from this thing," and I'm like, "Wow, that's exactly what I was going for," and I thought I blew it horribly. And it obviously comes across enough that it reminds everyone. Like Jasper was one of the first ones in this game that I did that with. She was modeled after somewhere between Cruella de Vil and the evil stepmom from Snow White. And somewhere right in the middle of those two. And
you know where that is.
Few sessions.
You know where that place is actually? It's the evil stepmother from Tangled.
From Tangled, yes, and that's where it landed. And that was another one of those 3. But yeah, exactly. The evil stepmother from Tangled is where I wanted Jasper to be eventually. And that's where she ended up being until, of course, the big reveal over in Countless Heroes. Go watch it.
I will be honest, that movie, it's like 2 tangents. One, would you like to throw on some ambient music? Because I think the theme song was by itself. That's okay. Need my thinking music, Logan. General? Sure.
Badass moment?
Badass moment. I don't think my brain can operate at that level of intensity. No, general's fine. Okay, so second tangent.
Ambiance.
Second tangent, spoilers for Tangled. So mute now if you really don't want to get spoiled. That movie has always kind of broken my heart in terms of its opportunity. I twice now have really wanted a Disney movie to let the villain be multifaceted and not a complete asshole. And twice I have been disappointed because they just turn into a mustache twirler for no reason. I have always been very heartbroken that the Tangled Witch did not have a similar vibe as the witch in Into the Woods, where it was like, no, I did terrible things. I still care about you. I did terrible, selfish things. But can you completely write me off because I did raise you for 16 years?
So what was the other one?
The other one was Frozen. I was like really upset that there was no villain for the huge chunk of that movie. It was just about misunderstandings and understanding the people that you love and care about who are troubled or have problems. And then they just threw in a mustache twirler who was just like, oh, I need to be totally evil and an asshole. And there was no reason for it when the whole movie was structured on a really good conceit. And so I was really bummed that it turned into that in the last act. It didn't need to be.
As far as, and this is what I love about this show, so we can just go anywhere. I think, at least from a story standpoint, I actually appreciate that because of the audience it's directed at. Because it's directed at mostly children and younger adults, which I don't think it's 100%, but that's sort of the target market because they want to sell toys. That's what most movies are, guys. They want to sell toys. That's where the money is. The idea that children watching that need a villain. They need, and I know that there wasn't always a real villain in real life, and sometimes things are just horrible. But having that villain there pop up and go, okay, there's somebody we can blame. There's somebody we can go, okay, now we know what we're doing. They don't get frustrated. They don't get upset because they can't do anything. They don't feel like they have any control. Having a villain gives the audience a little bit of control to go, now I know where to point the finger.
I know.
That is good for a movie that's simple. Besides that, though, I like the idea that it introduces the idea that you can't always trust everyone, no matter how nice and sweet and wonderful someone is. That's fair. It teaches a valuable lesson. But again, I can see your point too. I would love a Disney movie that is like that, that it's like, no, there's no, real mustache twirler.
Matthew made a good point. Moana, again, spoilers for Moana's a good example where, and that's the thing, that is a really good idea. Taking it back to Frozen really quick.
We were the monsters you have a group of people.
Well, in Frozen, you have the idea that, at least initially, it seems like there has just been a tremendous misunderstanding, and everybody is working to do the best with the information that they have. So even like the soldiers are like, this is scary. This person is like destroying our kingdom. We have to go do that, and they're just misinformed about what she's going through. That's what I just kind of wish that had been the major conceit, where it's like everyone just needed to talk it out. Like nobody was evil here. They just didn't have all the information. But
and that's why communication is key. And talking it out would have still solved all of those problems.
Yeah. But Moana was a really good example of misunderstanding and learning how to recover from trauma. That's a really good analogy they were playing with that I liked. So yeah, that was our Disney corner.
You got to have a Disney princess put a magic rock in your heart.
I just came up with a new.
I
just came up with a new challenge.
Works for me.
I came up with a new challenge. This is partially based off something Andy was trying to do, and I want to keep doing it. As a preview to everybody,
explain what our challenge. Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna explain. I'm proposing a new segment for the show called Challenges, where Logan and I get a challenge for the week. We construct our submissions for that, and then we basically show and tell with each other, whether it's build a certain type of character, build an item that does X, Y, and Z, or come up with an idea for a location, anything that's RPG world building.
Suggestions on this
I would love audience suggestions for challenges.
But you already have one for this week.
I have like 4. I have like 4 challenge ideas.
All right.
But one of them that I just came up with.
I have a chance to veto any of these.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
But one I just came up with because Andy wants to run a one-shot is turning the Disney princesses into D&D classes, like figuring out what they would be. Andy's already got this because he has a whole heist game one-shot planned for some people that we live near.
So it's basically Honey Heist, but you're a Disney princess?
Except, and you're trying to steal from Prince Charming because it turns out he's the same prince. He's been two-timing everybody. So all the princesses get together and decide to go, steal his shit. But he's been planning, which Disney characters are what kind of class. So we're talking about the idea that, Snow White can talk, or Cinderella can talk to animals. She's clearly, a druid. And taking all of the concepts. And so...
They all have at least 3 levels of bard.
Right, so it would be really fun to play with the idea of, okay, here's a Disney princess, convert that archetype, that type of character into a D&D character, and then...
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so that's an example where we'd say, turn a Disney princess into a D&D character, we get a week to plan out a basic idea, and then we basically just pitch it to each other, present them, and you guys can steal them if you want to use them for games, or we're just having fun, flexing our muscles within the rule set of D&D 5e.
Which is funny because I don't, my DMing style does not flex that muscle a lot, and it's going to be a lot of fun to do that. So is that our challenge for the next week?
Our challenge for next week is come up with a fun, thematically interesting multi-class idea. Take 2 classes, merge them together, and come up with all right, this isn't necessarily mechanically optimal, but this would be a cool character based on the flavor of multi-classing these 2 things. That's what I want to propose is multi-class something and just propose what kind of character.
Are you going to write that down somewhere?
I have it in our Airtable. I have a
okay, good.
Make a cool thematically interesting multi-class.
Awesome. Make sure that goes to the top after today because I'm going to forget all about it.
Okay.
Well, so with the hour of time I can squeeze out of my schedule, I'll figure that out.
I spent 15 minutes thinking about it. That's all. And I have the idea.
You're amazing. All right.
Well, and we can come up with basic concepts and then we can help each other flesh them out. If you only have a premise, we could talk out what you can do beyond that.
Yes.
So don't feel like you need to have a paper.
Yeah. So if let's go back to Cancun for a second because I always like the idea of them recreating his sounds and being able to do that perfectly to the point where I've used them as entire sections of instruments in a band.
Ska.
I even have an idea. Bacapella. Ska doesn't do large amounts of instruments. They're just individual instruments. With Bacapella, they play there's a horn section and whatever. It's all done by the Kinku. because it's all done a cappella technically, even though they have a drum. It's weird. But the thing is that when you're mimicking, it's almost with the kinku, it's almost like a recording. So there's an episode of Angel where River, what's her name that played River?
Summer Glau.
Summer Glau plays a ballerina.
Oh, the ballerina, yeah.
And they are locked in a time loop. And the guy who's got him locked in the time loop, who's obsessed about this ballerina, says something about like every time they get to a certain moment, she slips, her foot slips for just half a second, and he's watching it thousands of times. He just hopes every time this will be the time that doesn't happen, except that it's a time loop. You can't stop it. It's going to be the same performance every time. That's the problem with the kinku. It could be the most passionate, amazing, wonderful performance, but after a while, it's the exact same performance every single time. When the kinku uses or sings a song based on someone else's music, it's only the version they've heard. If they've heard multiple versions, maybe they could do different types, but it's like there's a difference between somebody being able to play the notes of a song and being able to play the song itself. Sure. And there's that feeling of emotion that comes from it. And I worry, in my mind, kinku can't quite capture that. So having other members of the band, like the Eric Cochran things, to kind of help out with that.
Sure.
That's why they're called Bacapella, because they're kinku.
They're the sample, and the Eric Cochran have to do something with the sample.
Exactly.
Sure. Oh, see, that fits really well with canonical world building for the kinku, where they talk about the idea that they lack imagination, they lack a creative drive to be able to do stuff. The mimicry is like it goes down to their very.
Well, they don't lack it; it was stolen from them.
Sure, that's the mythology background of it. I personally, just because I find the conceit of mimicry so interesting, when I was playing a kinku, I sort of ignored that part and was like, no, this is not so much that they lack the creativity, they just lack the ability to voice it through their own experience and through their own voice. And so
more alien.
Right. So I had a character, he was just as like his mental faculties were just as strong as anybody else's, and he was creative, but he was creative in the sense of, okay, I have to get an idea across and I can't say exactly what I need. I need to sample as many things as possible and remix them into something that I can express more articulately. So I am totally intrigued by that premise of, they had their creativity stolen from them. They're consummate minions. They're designed to do that. But from a PC standpoint, I also enjoy the idea of basically them at least just having their voice stolen from them. It's not so much that they can't imagine, it's just they can't express their imagination. And those are both valid.
Like that. Yeah, they're both valid, of course. This whole idea of being constantly a minion, I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that one. Makes me feel like Despicable Me too much, but
the minions can only, or the Kenku can only say banana.
Banana. Ba 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 banana.
Jesus Christ.
I fucking love minions. All right. I think we've done Kenku to death.
Oh, so then we maybe we put together.
Come on.
We did. Maybe we make a video about races. Maybe we talk about a little bit about the canonical interpretation of a race, but then we also veer off and express maybe an alternate way to consider that culture. That could be a good way, because this is a good starting point for that. I think the Kinku are interesting.
We could talk about, in addition to that, in different ways we could look at things. We could talk about the ways that we've used them in Vale, because we've gone through a lot of the races and talked about how they exist in Vale as being very different. Vale is our homebrew world, as opposed to Forgotten Realms or wherever, and talk about the reasons why you make those decisions, and how you have to kind of have them make sense.
Yeah, slight tangent, but still a little bit on par. There's what was it? Hold on a second. There's a game called Overlight, an RPG coming out, or might have already come out, in development at least, where they have changed a little bit of the language on how to talk about different races. They've just nixed that whole term and started calling them folk, which I really like. Taking away that race is a word with baggage and an odd word to use for groups that are in many ways essentially different species of creatures. So folk was a nice colloquial way of, and a more unifying way of referring to the different peoples who are there. I always get shit for saying the word peoples. It's a word.
It is a word. It's the unfortunate part is that as D&D 5e goes, so goes the world. Because D&D is the large market share, it's the most recognized. It is, one of the originals. It is, considered by some to be the original, but it's actually not. But that's fine. The first role-playing game, and how it defines itself is going to be how it defines itself in the future. Even to the point where, my understanding is that the designers didn't want to include alignment in the system, but because it is so quintessential, that word, that it is so very
quintessential.
That's the word I was looking for. It's too early. To D&D, they had to include it, even though they didn't necessarily want to, and they couldn't change it in any way, like we talked about last week, because again, it's very defined and specific.
And if I remember correctly, isn't the new Pathfinder? Aren't they going to be going to more culture? I know, but just a little. They're going to culture instead of race. That you can be a different type of person. You can be a half-orc, you can be an elf. But if you come from a similar cultural background, that's where your skills and tendencies and personality and life values come from. Which I think is an interesting. I think that's an interesting direction to take it.
I need to grab that now, especially now that we're doing this. I think we need to do a Pathfinder look, even as much as I am. I owned a game store when Pathfinder came out. I owned when 3.0 and 3.5 were big, like 90% market share, 87% market share. I owned a game store, and I made a lot of money during that year with 3.5 products as they bloated to the size of the Hindenburg, and then subsequently burned to the ground, where Pathfinder was birthed from the ashes. And for the time, it was an amazing concept, this idea that, no, let's just revise rules we have, not talk about new rules, as 4th edition came out and was pretty much, except for new players liked 5th and 4th edition and a few old ones, but for the most part, 4th edition was not well received. That's the nicest way I can put it. I played it for a while, and the only problem I found is at higher levels, every power just kind of felt the same. It's like, oh, you're doing the exact same dice rolls for the exact same reasons. We're just flavoring it differently. And you get to a point where it reminds me of Mutants and Masterminds. Mutants and Masterminds is a superpowers game where basically every power is the same role. You're damaging, you're defending, you're moving. Those are the 3 main abilities. It's all the same roles. You just flavor it differently, and it feels boring. And there's like no status effects. I'm sure there are. We just didn't play with a lot of them, but it just felt very similar, the exact same type of thing to keep balance, which makes sense, especially a superhero game. But when you've got a superhero who's invincible and can fly a million, can't take any damage, basically, can fly at 10 million miles per hour or whatever, but then when they try to hit something, because the idea, his name was the Bullet. This is my buddy Aubrey, and his name was the Bullet. He would just fly at things and hit them, but the problem was his power attack, the actual attack, he had no points left over, so he would fly at you a million miles per hour and slam into you and do like 1 die of damage. And it's like, that doesn't.
I think his name should have been called the Rubber Bullet.
The Rubber Bullet, yes, perfect. But that's Pathfinder was there when it was. Sorry, that was a tangent in 4th edition. We do that a lot. But Pathfinder was there during that time, and it was a great little addition to the system. Their concept of we'll never, this is it. We're never gonna revise our system. We're just gonna keep adapting this one. Worked for a while. Until they started competing with 5th edition, then all of a sudden they looked at their system based on a 15-year-old or so system, and they realized they needed to adapt. And their way of
we can't fit all this luggage into our carry-on into the overhead.
It's not frustrating. Frustrating is the wrong word. It's just an interesting take to see them doing this revamp, and to see some of their people going, hey, you said you were never going to do this. We love this system. But so many people are walking away because there's just too much now. They had the same problem as before. They're bloating their system just way too much. So they're doing the revamp, and then their revamp, they've decided to go to some weird places. They're expanding beyond what D&D is, and they're adding, they're going into 10th level spells, and I can only think they're trying to adapt to create it more of an expanded system to try to separate themselves more. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I'm willing to look at it. I'm willing to give it a play test and absolutely have some fun. So,
all right. So we have exhausted and tangented a lot on Kenku and other sort of related topics. How about we go to the next one?
Zweihander? I'm saying that wrong. I know it. Zwinder? Is that the game? Is that the name of that company that did that game? Zwinder?
No, that's actually the RPG.
Okay.
I will look it up and we can talk about it another episode. Overlight's the name of the game I was talking about, which I'm actually very excited to take a look at.
Oh, I got some stuff off of Free RPG Day. I might have that floating around here.
Ooh,
maybe that's one of the ones I want to talk about. That may be one of the ones that we're going to look at as one of the original ones we're going to do. One of the things we're going to do is review games like that. Like we'll go get as many as we can on Free RPG Day, and we'll go through and we'll review those either here or on our full channel. And I hope with this week, since I've got the next few days off, that I'll have time to start getting some of those videos up and maybe get at least a video a week for the next 6 or 7 weeks until we get into January, based on the content we've already got, because we've got a lot of content already.
Yeah,
that I want to
we
talk
do.
about.
We just have to script it.
Very excited. All right. So we are on to, wow, we're zooming along here.
Kind of.
Points. Is that where we're going next?
Yes. Funhouse
no, I
rules.
meant time-wise, not us-wise.
Gotcha. Funhouse rules. We talk about house rules and homebrew rules. So we're going to talk about perk points, which is came about for particular logistic reasons for how big our game was, Countless Heroes. It was designed to help the players help us. There are a lot of moving parts in a very big campaign and a lot of bookkeeping that has to be done because we want to make sure we have summaries of our episodes. We want to make sure that, there are World Anvil articles.
Yeah, why don't we give them a taste of what we do on a daily basis for Countless Heroes?
Sure. So an episode is going to go live, right? We are going to stream an episode. We play the game, what is it, 6:30 at night, 7 o'clock? But we set up our game, and we have scribes that are taking notes, and that's just, standard procedure in a D&D campaign. You have someone taking notes.
60 players are scribes. Also, two of them are also DM assistants.
Correct.
And then one of them is the head of the scribes.
So we play a session. People are taking notes, and we need things written down and published for our players who are going to be coming in the next day to play. They need to know what happened in the last session. So we need to have notes written out and available on like a Google Doc that we have that lets people go in and read what happened.
We did a West Marcher style game before this, and we tried to keep things a secret and force people to watch previous sessions. And the people who had like really taxing jobs, such as Andy
just
and
full-time jobs in general, it's hard to juggle that.
Yeah, they had a hard time keeping up because they started to feel left behind and left out. So I went into this game going, well, to avoid that, I want to make sure that in some way explained in character, and I try to get beyond just the idea, well, your group gossips a lot. Then everyone would understand everything that's going on with every character. For the most part, there's a few secrets that are kept, but for the most part, I wanted to be able to keep that. And we can talk about that on another time, talking about large groups and streaming. But that's the idea: is you want to make sure that everyone's kind of included. So these notes had to be up quickly, and they had to be brief and summarized. The problem is we also needed other notes. We needed full notes because we also decided we're going to do written recaps of every episode to help the audience catch up. So while the non-scribes would take those quick notes and post those onto our Discord server for the other players, our scribes within 48 hours would then take their long form notes and write 2 or 3 pages of notes into a document behind the scenes for Heather, the head of the scribes, to then write, and Angela sometimes, and Andy too, to sometimes write a full adventure log, which we post on the website.
Which is in prose. So turning bullet points into prose. That Yeah, so we've got a lot of notes that have to be written out. In addition to that, on our YouTube videos that get put up after, how about this? After the show, we have to name the episode and write a little brief recap. So we work on that with you right after the episode ends. We have to,
and I have to remember to upload it to YouTube.
Yes. We have to, this is blending a little bit with the third topic as well, across the streams. This is going to be a little preview into what we do every day. And then after that, we have to ideally put timestamps on our YouTube videos because we have a big chunk of space before this game even starts. We don't want someone turning on the YouTube video and realizing, oh, this is just like a slideshow. Where's the game? We want to put timestamps in so you know this is where the game starts. This is where the mid-break starts so you can watch the art. And this is where our ad break starts after the mid-break so that you can see us talking about World Anvil or Nerdsgiving or anything that we want to get, any news we want to talk about.
Yeah, and then you also, once you have the title, create a graphic and upload that
Make a
as
thumbnail
for the video, so it's not just us making goofy faces.
Correct. So there's a lot of moving parts, and as of right now, initially
this doesn't include any of the in-character tracking of all the items because they've got a group loot form they do. We have an asset list that has all of the NPCs, locations, places listed that the scribes and players go on and add to as the game's playing. So we can take those and then add them to World Anvil. All of this is just months and months and 1,000 hours of previous gameplay going, how do we organize all this information?
We are already at 10,000 words, by the way, on World Anvil.
Are we really?
Yeah. I had to set us to 20,000 as a goal now.
Nice.
We are, and
because we added all the adventure journals, right?
Not all of them, but we've added a lot of NPCs
really?
And gods and lots of stuff like that have taken up space. Yep,
that's amazing.
We will talk about that a little bit later.
they have a special award when you hit 200,000, if I heard correctly.
Well, that'll be our goal. But yeah, so lots of moving parts.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on.
And to get our players who might just be playing, they're not actually involved in any of the logistics, to get them more involved, because that's a lot of manpower that our players are incredibly generous with their time. They really do want to help. They want to find out how they can make things easier for us. And so having, 16 people worth of manpower to do some of this stuff, we wanted to incentivize and reward the people that step up and help us out.
We did up front when we started this. We started taking auditions for this game, and I brought people over. I made it clear that part of this game was going to be this sort of work because we needed it. We needed people who were passionate and excited about it to the point that they're willing to help out. And as we started going on and into it, we had already done 8 weeks of prep before we'd started this. We'd had a couple of people in the group that didn't mesh well, so we had gone through some growing pains. And people were already a little, not tired of each other, but just tired of the work. So when we started, we just tried to get started, get going, get back into that feel and that groove. And I felt like we started to lose that work a little bit. And so instead of being negatively reinforcing and being like, guys, this has got to happen. And, I tried to create a system where we could positively reinforce and incentivize the idea of doing this.
Enter perk points. Perk points are a system of just, you earn points every week for participating in those extracurricular items. So if you help write notes, if you help put timestamps on the YouTube channel, if you, I think there was something about, proofreading our downtimes and our session journals, any of those things, making articles on World Anvil. So any of those things that are, outside of the game activities that help us maintain the campaign, you would earn perk points, and you have a certain maximum a week that you can earn. But as you accumulate the perk points, you can have two general benefits from doing that. As you hit points, we kind of treat it like XP. When you reach certain levels, like you've accumulated a certain number total, you can get benefits, in-game benefits. So, advantage on rolls or a hero die or any sorts of little things that you can do. And then also you can take that currently the number you have, you can spend that on more in-game perks. I believe at one point you get a legendary save Like that's a thing you can get if you have a high enough number of perk points.
So the perk points you can get, you can earn 2 a week is the max, and I've done once or twice. I've done little incentives here and there. Like everybody who participated in Nerds Giving on the day one, everyone who went out there and blasted it out got 10 perk points just for participating in that, because I thought that was such an important event. But these little things kind of add up. So the idea was there's going to be what I called like an experience chart. So like the more you earn, you got raised up on this experience chart. That had nothing to do with how many you had currently, just how many you've earned overall. These are little in-game temporary perks. These are things like getting a hero die, getting an advantage on a roll, just little things like that. I can't remember. I think there's a couple others on there, and I'm going to expand it as they get up and go on. Then there was one where you could take those and then spend them and buy things that were a little bit more advanced, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I have some of the other things.
Sure.
You can gain a +1 to a stat.
That's for buying points.
That's for buying.
Right? Yes, spending points is more of a permanent.
That's earning. If you earn, earn points. But if you spend points, you can re-roll a failed roll for 5. You can add a charge to a rechargeable magical item for 5 points. You can take 5 minutes to gain the benefits of a short rest for 10 points. You can take a short rest but gain the benefits of a long rest for 20. Or you can gain
that magic item is limited to an uncommon or rare too, or something.
Sure. You can gain a permanent legendary save if you spend 100 perk points. Now, to give you any sort of vibe for that, that's 2 points a week. That's really near the end of the campaign. Yeah, that's the end of the campaign. But still, the fact that you could earn that as a player, that's a big incentive where it's like, listen, this is part of my leveling plan. And if you think like that, that's a way to engage your players with helping you with some of what might be considered like some of the more tedious stuff. Like this is the work that has to be done for the campaign to maintain at the level that we want for our audience. So that in and of itself is just a form of payment kind of.
And when I used to do stat rolling, I really did not. I think me personally, I believe stat rolling encourages a lot of min-maxing. Not that people don't try to do that anyway. Some people, I'm not saying everyone. And that's okay. If min-maxing is the way you have fun, it used to be the way I had fun, not a problem. Enjoy that. Have fun. I have no problems with it. But
someday I want a -5 stat.
Point buy does at least give you the opportunity to spread that out. It also allows me as the DM to give out more perks that increase stats. I do that a lot more, like in this situation, when we use point buy, because I know that it's all it's going to do is push you up to that limit of where you would have been if you had rolled dice anyway. So it works out really well for me. It also encourages people to make role-playing decisions. This is a whole different conversation, but that's why that's like the only permanent thing you can do. I maintain the balance because of that. And then of course there's that one that maybe 2 or 3 people have the opportunity to reach. That one where if you earn 2 every week, you might get to that point of getting that legendary save. Again, it doesn't really unbalance it, especially when we have hero dice in the game, which are basically temporary legendary saves anyway. You can automatically make a save with that. The only difference is a legendary save you can choose after you roll, which is nice. But yeah, it's really incredible it's a really fun system that has been built up over several systems I've used over the years, and it used to be. There used to be a lot of crazy things in here, like deck draws and just all sorts of craziness that existed in the system initially. And there's one point for Easter. I do a lot of crazy things for Easter because I love Easter egg hunts. I would actually hide these things in eggs around my house. One of the things I really love is and we would have a positive deck draw. This was in our min-maxing days, where you only pull from the red cards of the deck of many things, and everyone loved that one. So. But we don't have those in the game anymore.
I will say that the mechanics of hero die and perk points and all that stuff, I like the idea that in our particular style of gaming, we don't take combat is not the situation necessarily where things can go so dire so regularly. We have a bit of a cushion in those situations because dice are very unkind sometimes, and
a lot of our systems are meant to offset the crappy dice rolls.
Right, but in the same token, we find that a lot of our this might just be because how Logan DMs, but a lot of the situations that we find ourselves in, the lose, like the no-win situations or the really difficult moments, those are RP moments. Those are not depending on the dice rolls usually. Those are, we have to roleplay, we have to think our ways out of a situation. And there are benefits to both. People prefer difficulties in different some people like role-playing to be the easy part and the combat to be the hard part. We tend to gravitate towards the opposite, and Logan tends to gravitate towards the opposite of that.
Until you guys get up into the more epic levels, and then you're facing off against.
Then we're all married with children, but now we're fighting Tiamat.
Yeah, exactly.
We're running the Girl Scouts at the Cinderhaven Community Center, but then a lich shows up.
What do you think's going to be the first to have a kid in this game?
I don't know. We're not parental.
Yeah, there's not a lot of parental people here. I think if anybody's going to adopt someone, it's going to be Rosie.
Rosie already adopted like 16 rats.
Yeah. We got to...
which I have to talk to you about a gift.
Okay.
I'll talk to you about that. I mean,
anyway, that's per points. That is a complicated system that we use. And we can write that up and put that out there if anybody's interested. It's just, the idea is, I mean, you can create your own stuff. My suggestion though, if you do create your own sort of perk tiered system like that, where people can earn things for supporting the game outside of the game, if you're doing a stream or something, or even if it's just your normal game, don't do anything permanent. Don't give them permanent things. Give them temporary things that they can use and enjoy, and give them more of them. But permanent things, well, they're forever, and those have a tendency of adding up and eventually can kind of break things. Also, focus on the little things. You can do those more often, but if you start adding in those permanent things, just make sure they're spread out, or there's a large gap in between them. So,
I have a proposal. It's 2:00 on my time, so. We're an hour in, right? We've been chatting for about an hour? Okay, cool. Do you want to go to the next topic, which we've sort of been fluttering in and out of?
That's going to happen a lot.
Yeah, but this one's going to do that a lot more than some of the others.
I want to make sure we get to all systems go.
Yeah. So, is there anything in particular we want to bring up with Cross the Streams? Or we can at least make a list of some of the stuff we want to...
Wait, what is Crossing the Streams again?
Crossing the Streams is talking about, now that you're playing for an audience, what are the considerations you have to make?
I have a ton of things to talk about with that.
Do we want to hold off on that one for another episode? Because it'll just be like, we could start with that and do a huge amount of topic on that? Because it's kind of what we've been talking about this whole time. Well,
yeah, we've been talking a lot about it. I mean, we can ask the audience, too, if they want us to talk more about that or move on. I don't care either way. I'm good either way. But the big thing is when you're talking about a stream, what we would talk about is breaking down the idea that you have to consider everything. You have to look at every aspect of your game, from your DMing to your players. The amount of things that we talked about and thought about, audio quality, video quality, backdrops, which
layout.
Are layout. Oh, the layouts, and then the different layouts, and the fact that if someone drops on your camera, it reshuffles everyone if you're using Zoom and everything.
Not just video quality, but logistics of video, how to get everybody's pictures to work. Yeah,
and doing was one of the things we did, instead of doing overlays on our screen, like on the frame. Because if we put an overlay on the frame and people reorganize, then I have to remove things in the middle of the stream. We did overlays on each person's computer. So we got a program called SparkleCam, and they can put on their own overlay. I think Andrew's going to do that right now for you.
Well, we do have overlays on the thing, so I'll put one up outside of that.
Okay.
Outside of that location, you won't be able to see it very well.
On ours, because it's only Anjan and I pull my video directly from my camera, and I pull Anjan's from Zoom, so there's no chance that we can switch. But when you've got 6 players all on Zoom, if one person drops, they go to the end. And I believe that's the same with Skype. So there's what it looks like there in the upper corner. So you can see that
it looks like this.
it fills the entire screen, and then it gives a perfect square that I can then put inside of the box. And it works really well for us. It means the art is a little bit lower quality because it comes over their camera feed instead of directly from them. But it's overall, it's perfect. Overall, it works really well for us. Although it did mean everybody had to purchase a $20 program on top of their $100 microphone and their $60 camera.
If they didn't already have that stuff.
If they didn't already have it, and that was a huge. I mean, I said up front before anybody got involved, I said there's a minimum quality level. There's of audio and video that I am requiring. If that's not going to work for you, we'll play a different game later. But right now, we're going to do a stream. It's going to be our flagship for the network. This has to be the way. This is the way it is. Period. I have those requirements, and not everyone has gotten their backdrop yet. We got a couple people that are still working on that, and that's okay. I became a lot more lax on those rules when I realized, once we got the audio and video settled, everything else was like, okay, I'm fine now. We got most of it going. We'll get the rest as we go. I didn't want to push people too hard, but and then we talked about all the things we have to consider every day. Personally, I have to open probably 20 programs just to get everything working correctly. I run 2 Discords to get the audio correct because there are certain things I wanted from me. First, I want to push to talk, which is near impossible to do with the setup. I also wanted to go through my Reaper so I can do voice modulation for characters and monsters and things like that.
Can you demo that, or is it not set up right now?
I can do it right now.
I love Trey so much. Trey is such a fun character voice.
I don't think I have Trey on here.
Aw, so sad. But the fact that Logan can
I've got
press
the
a
vessel down here.
Ugh.
So there's that one. But yeah, I can do things on the fly.
The fact that Logan can just, there's a golem in the room, and then all of a sudden he's doing this, tweaked out little stone robotic voice. It's so engaging.
Sort of like this, that's a ring modulator.
I love his voice so much. But these are the little things that we've chosen to invest time and money into. I love it. But this idea... Oh, is that Mesmer?
You got to make... That was Mesmerlock. You got to make sure that people still understand you on the other end. And that's tough because I can understand me because I'm saying the words. So without testing them, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Is that Scott? Is that Scott
I don't know.
from Hi, Scott?
Are you...
PFW Scott?
So biggest takeaway from this, though, is that we decided... Streaming is going to have a lot of barriers to entry, monetary and technological barriers to entry. You can function at a much lower, much simpler setup than this. We have chosen to start out on the best foot we could, but that does involve a considerable amount of time and money investment to have the equipment and the software that we need.
And doing the research.
And doing the research. Not only that, multiply that by 16 people, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is way more complicated than we had originally anticipated.
Also, purchasing the wrong software. We went with
Trial and error
originally, and spent $100 on a lifetime license, thinking that it's a paid program. It's got to be better than Streamlabs. Get Streamlabs. Just get Streamlabs. It's free. It's amazing. It does everything I needed to do. Streamlabs OBS is the best software. OBS is, if you're a programmer, if you're into that, if you like to think like that, go with just the standard OBS. But Streamlabs OBS is a great interface. It works really well. But the overall, it's worth taking the time. Here are the big tips. And this is the type of the video I would put out. The big tips for streaming for me to you, when I'm looking to raid someone, another game, here's what I'm looking for. I want to see a simple, or it could be complex, but at least easily read and understood cover, layout, overlay, whatever you want to call it. I'd like to see the name of the show, but that's not a 100% requirement. I want to see the faces of people. I want to see the people. That's why on ours, it is as large as possible. Every person is as big as I could get them on the screen, because the people are what make D&D. Now, by demand, we put up a map overlay. People are like, okay, I want to see a map overlay. Great. So I created...
Well, and Logan comes up with great maps. You come up with great maps. There's some really cool things.
I use them.
But you have to put them together. You actually have to take the effort to do that, and you find some really cool resources and assets, and they're worth sharing. I think they're worth sharing.
Yes, absolutely. And I agree that if we're going to have a map, we should show it. But for the most part, it's about the people. So I want to see the people, even if they're smaller, like on our if you've seen our show and you've seen our combat display is what we call it. Everyone is a little bit smaller, but at least that size or bigger. If you're just streaming Roll20 and everybody's picture is this tiny in the bottom, I'm probably not going to raid you. I don't care who's in there or what it sounds like. I won't even click into it because it looks. I'm not seeing the people. I want to see the people. That is why I'm there. It is about connecting with people. So that is the biggest takeaway. And then when I click in, nobody better sound like they're on their phone. If I am hearing some phone quality audio, $5 Walmart headset, I'm going to walk away. And unfortunately, that's me. And I'm not trying to be a snob about it. I just have a certain level of quality that I think if you're going to stream and try to make money, you should put a little bit of effort into it. I'm not saying you have to be the level that we are, but a little bit of effort is in my opinion required. And
we sort of exist on the mantra that people are much more willing to forgive bad video than they are bad audio. That you're trying to experience something, it's not quite the same. You don't necessarily have the same connection to a person you randomly see on Twitch than you do with, say, your friends, which you might be a little more forgiving about just being on a phone call quality of thing, because you know the person. You're like, yeah, it's fine. I can hear them. That's fine. But you don't know the person. Also, that can really that can be a real detriment to your enjoyment of that stream to not be able to hear them clearly.
Also, if everyone's in the same room and you've only got one microphone, that's okay as long as it's still clear. And again, I will absolutely forgive the video over audio. Hearing everyone is important.
Sure.
Also, engage with your audience. That's something that we debated early on. Until we get to a certain size. If we get to a certain size, like we're Critical Role, they can't live engage with their audience. It's never going to happen. But initially,
that was never their design to begin with. They chose that they were entertaining, and then you're watching.
Yeah. When I go into a stream, unless it is extremely high quality produced, I do not stick around if I give bits or a subscription or something and I get no feedback. It's just tough to want to stick around in a stream like that when not even a moderator or anything is like acknowledging that you are there and existing. Twitch is the platform that's designed for engagement. So it's best to try to do that if you can.
Can't hear you.
Everything else got to be top notch if you're not going to do that. Like your audio mic shouldn't cut out in the middle of talking. That's very unprofessional.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine.
Anyway, sorry. So let's go ahead and move on because I know we want to get to AUG.
Yes.
We want to get to.
We should have called it All Systems AUG. Damn it! We missed an opportunity.
We did. I'm sorry.
I'm so disappointed in myself.
So we are talking. All Systems Go is a section where we talk about different systems besides 5e and Dungeons and Dragons. So we're going to talk today about AUG, the caveman role-playing game, which has a premise which is incredible and a game system which is overly complicated. So the basic premise of AUG is you're playing cavemen. And there's 5 different or 6 different types of caveman. There's a strong caveman, a tough caveman, a smart caveman, a wise caveman,
like a charismatic
fast caveman, and the pretty caveman. I don't know. I'm making these up at this point. So, and basically it's the 5 or 6 main stats. The premise is you're a caveman. You don't really know a lot. So you've got simplistic weapons, simplistic armor, like a leaf, I think is an armor. But also your vocabulary is extremely limited. So the entire role-playing game is done with you only knowing 2 of a list of words. And this list of words is only things like sky, fire. There are no verbs. Well, there's one verb. And I can't remember what it is. I think it's go. And I think verisimilitude. Well, I can't say
Verisimilitude.
that word. What? I don't. Anyway, they threw that on as a joke. So there's a lot of different words, and you have to choose these words. A smart caveman can speak a couple more words. Now, this has an entire structure and leveling system, and like I said, the game charts for rolling. The game is overly complicated as a system. That premise, though, this idea that you can only say 2 words while you're role playing, is incredible. Vermicelli. That's it. It was vermicelli.
Like the pasta?
That was the joke. Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I've always loved the premise, but I've hated the gameplay. Hated is a strong word. I just like
Don't hate the game, hate the premise.
It sounds like an indie game that you should be able to pick up and start playing in 20 minutes. But creating the characters for a small party will take you an hour. That is too much time for a game that is this is not meant to sound harsh, but a throwaway game. It's not something, nobody's going to sit there and go, I want to play Thug the Caveman today. Can we go back and play Thug some more? You know, nobody's going to be that excited about it. If you are, I apologize. Good for you. Enjoy Thug the pretty caveman. For me, and for most people I played with, it is a what we call a toss-away game. It is you play it, you're done. It is there for that moment, and it exists in a beautiful moment because it's a fun game. So what I've done is I've taken, in the past, that system. There was a night during our last big game, Tolus, where I just did not want to DM. I was like, I'm not in the mood to be as in the headspace of the person that has to manipulate and be very mean to all of my players in that moment. And I'm like, can we just not tonight? Can we just do something else? Everyone was 100% on board. And I created a pixie role-playing game where every one of the characters played a pixie based on Og. The premise being that pixies are dumb. They only know 2 words. I created this weird list of words that I thought pixies would know. I think I engaged their help to come up with like 20 words. And in my versions, pixies will get together as a group and they will base those groups on who knows what words, so they always have a good vocabulary. So once somebody chooses a word, it's off the list. Nobody else can choose that word. And so they were in a witch's house, which I tied back into the game, and they had to get out. They had to break out. They were stuck in this cage, and they had to break out of a pixie's the cage and then the house itself by trying to open a door or window as pixies. But they could only roleplay with 2 words, and I can't remember some of the words.
Tree. Tree was one of them. I think that was one of mine. Go was one.
Hot.
Fire was one, I think.
Fire.
And prestidigitation was the long one. I remember that.
Prestidigitation was the joke one, yeah. So you know, but instead of creating this whole complicated system, I just grabbed my favorite go-to simple version system, Powered by the Apocalypse. The Powered by the Apocalypse system, and I don't know much about it other than how Griffin McElroy used it in the Adventure Zone during the missing year arc.
Stolen Century.
Stolen Century. God, I've only listened to it twice all the way through. So it's a very simple system. You roll 2d6. You have some stats, but the basic idea is you roll 2d6, and a 6 and under is a failure, complete failure. A 7 through 9 is a failure, success, a half failure, half success, or a
mixed
partial success.
Yeah.
And then a 10 and up is a complete success, and you get plus and minus depending on what type of pixie you chose. So I had 4 stats. I had strength, speed,
probably like cunning and something, wisdom,
smarts and magic, and so you could do stuff with magic. And basically, I said you could do anything you could do with prestidigitation, but each one is its own type of little spell for pixies. It was a lot of fun, and they lit the cat on fire at one point on accident.
I've never had so much fun being mangled in a game.
Yeah, and they took apart a clock and grabbed it and picked the lock and. But you think you 2 or 3 of them could carry this piece over to the lock, but then how do you turn it? You know, so they came up with all these unique and amazing things, and one of them got smacked down right at the last minute by the witch coming home. But it was a lot of fun.
Yes.
So
really awesome.
we so most recently we took that game to another level. I don't remember whose idea it was, but for our bonus content,
Tessa's
for
original
shenanigans.
idea, Andy polished it. But
Right. So the original idea
Tessa's
was
original idea.
in our shenanigans game, we're doing our bonus content for the Nerds Drive.
So
the
don't spoil too much. Just give them a
I'm not.
taste.
They thought let's do Og, but we'll do it as a pirate game. And
It's called ARG.
ARG, the pirate role playing game. And so we'd only have 2 or 3 words or whatever. And then somebody came up with the idea Andy came up with the idea, instead of being pirates, why aren't we the pirates parrots? And so
Which structurally fits into the idea of a limited vocabulary, and it's perfect.
Yes, so we played as Tessa's character, storytelling for the other characters. So we were playing characters who were playing this game, and I played Tugnut, the goblin, their goblin friend from down in the Underdark. And so they were doing it while they were taking a break at their city, and we played that game, and it is hilarious. If you donated during the
Trim the Sail, that was another good one that we could have used. Damn it!
Oh, that's
There's too many choice ones.
We did
There's
phrases
too many.
instead of just words. Yeah. So we had fire the cannons, and there was a lot of good stuff. So if you donated during the Nerds Giving, you will have access to that very soon. We were trying to get that all done, trying to get all the last of the stuff from everyone. But we will have access to that very soon. If you didn't donate during Nerds Giving, you're going to have to wait until next April, unfortunately. And that will then become available to all subscribers at that point. So you'll have access to it then if you subscribe. So, but that is, if you donate, you'll have access to that very soon. It is probably one of the most fun hours of role playing I've done in a very long time. We've got a lot of very silly, crazy places. Just as a standalone game, those games are amazing. But Og especially. So if you are looking for a quick, simple indie game, combine the two. You can come up with anything. You literally can flavor it as anything. Maybe we'll do that as a challenge one of these weeks, is to come up with unique ways to use Og. But I don't know if we're going to beat Parrot Pirates. I mean, that was amazing. And it just
we called it Squawk, wasn't it called Squawk?
Squawk. It was called
Arg
Squawk.
would have been the parrot or the pirates. Squawk was the pirates. Fuck, can't say that very well.
So that's what we do with it. So we don't use Og, and this goes back to how we kind of do a lot of our games. We don't use, if we don't like a system, we don't use it. But the premise of a thing is where its heart is and where the concept is. Take that and make it your own. One of these weeks we'll talk about Hangman, which was a game I created with the Powered by the Apocalypse system, since it's such a simple system, but based on another game that I saw, and it was a great way. And we created basically what we call our online dread. It is a way to get that same stress of dread in playing Jenga, only instead of it being a physical thing, it's more of a mental thing, and online by playing Hangman. It's a fun little game. If you want to watch, we actually have an episode up. Tessa ran an episode of it, a very long episode. Usually it's an hour game, but she basically strung 3 versions of it together to make a long episode, and that's up on the Nerdsmith YouTube page. So, but we will definitely be doing that.
Yes, I look forward to Cantata Party.
You guys gonna start singing? Come on, let's go.
All right, so I'm so mad about All Systems Og. That would have been so good. Fuck, I'm so mad at myself. I'm not gonna get over that.
We're working so much. We should spend all our time just coming up with catchy names for our segments for them.
Do I need to change code of conduct on our thing to doobly do's and don'ts?
Doobly do's and don'ts. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, that will be changed. It will be even smaller text. It'll be about as long as the actual code of conduct rules, but it'll be there. Anyway, what's next?
I think we're good there. I mean, that's basically the concept I just wanted to get across was, indie games, something I rallied against for a very long time. I was not a big fan of indie games. I understand them now. It just took some time.
Scott, play a Space Gremlin version and call it Pew. Yes.
All right.
Scott, you don't know it, but you just also gave me an idea for another thing I'm developing.
That's
yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. Thanks.
I will give you a creative credit on that,
that's
Scott.
Gonna happen, yeah. But yeah, to take the essence of something. You don't have to use the system. I always thought you did. I don't know why. I had this weird feeling in my mind that if I didn't use their system exactly, I couldn't use their concept. That's not what this game is about. That's not what we do is about. What we do is about being creative and being creative with other people. Role playing is about being creative with other people. Take ideas, use them, twist them, manipulate them, turn them into something that you and your friends can have fun with. And then if you think it's great, or even if you don't, maybe because you might have bad self-esteem issues like I used to, put it out there and share it with the world, because it could be amazing, and we want to hear it about it.
Check out
send it to us.
Yes, please
at drpg@nerdsmith.org, and we will.
Or on Twitter.
If we like it, we'll review it. Or you can find us
on Twitter at Discover RPG Show.
Discover RPG Show. My Twitter handle is Discover_RPG. Angela's is something very strange.
Darling _gypsum.
Gypsum, like the wall stuff, because the wall stuff is darling.
I can tell you want to know the origin of that name? I can explain the origin of that name. Okay, so in college, my friends and I played music.
Jump through walls.
No, but we played music. We played ukulele or guitar, and we sang, and we were doing all this stuff, and we came up with this idea that the two of us, me and my roommate, wanted to make a band out of the two of us, but we wanted to do something sort of like super ironic and funny. So we were going to give ourselves a band name, but there's only two people in it. So we were Darling Gypsum's Family Band, and it was just going to be like this thing, and there's literally just two people in it. And we never used it. And then I started recording music online, and so I plucked Darling Gypsum out of that because it sounds kitschy and silly.
It's kind of cute.
So yeah. And then I got into Steven Universe, and it works. It works in more than one way now that I like Steven Universe.
Yeah,
because Gypsum made me think of like gemstones.
Who doesn't like Steven Universe? That's not a challenge. Calm down.
People who need it in their lives.
I was going to say the only people that don't like it are the people that need to watch it.
Y'all need Steven.
Y'all need Steven. That's right. Yes, yes, 100%. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Our next thing is one of our favorite things to talk about, World Anvil.
We don't have a screen share system set up yet, but we would like to do that as we talk about different features in World Anvil. But since we're doing so much work filling out our World Anvil for Countless Heroes, or for the World of Vale in general, since we have a couple of properties that are in the World of Vale, we figured why not make a segment and talk about it in piecemeal, so you can see what we're doing and what kind of stuff we are using World Anvil for.
So there's going to be a time in the future when we have it set up where Angela and I are going to spend an hour working on World Anvil together, and we're going to stream that and then maybe talk about that. Like, we're going to probably find a time, as this grows, especially, if it starts paying the bills, but as this grows, if we can lock out a small section another time of the week, we'll take that time to either do this or play test or do an indie game, and we'll stream that, and then we'll talk about it on the following show. So I'm thinking maybe it'll be Sunday, maybe, or something like that, or maybe every other Monday night, whatever Angela says, because Angela's the one that has to be late, unfortunately.
I have to be late, and I also have shockingly more of a tempered opinion on the value of my time. So I'm like, we need to sleep. We need to not do 15 things every week.
15? You're only doing 15?
That was what was the thing I heard yesterday? I conjured a number to illustrate a thing, I believe.
I like that.
Don't like it. It came from somebody that it's not okay that they said that.
Oh, aw.
But I'm going to use it from now on.
Yeah, make it your own thing. Then we can come from someone we do like. Now I want to know who it came from.
I don't remember. It was a pundit or something on a newscast that
gross.
Conjured a number, and the newscaster was like, "That's not the correct percentage How can you know that percentage? Do you have proof? No, I just conjured a number to illustrate a thing I believe. I was like, wow, that is the most honest thing I have ever heard on a political news thing. Scott,
that's a great thing
coming
to
up
talk
with
about. We should add
worlds
that
and-
as a...
how we come up with worlds and plots?
Yeah.
Because I'm a failed writer. That's why.
That's all you have to do. Be a failed writer. You know what? You're not a failed writer. You're just a writer that didn't send out enough transcripts.
There you go.
I heard a writer say that one time.
There you
I was
go.
like, oh, that's kind of... You just need to send out 132 before Harry Potter got picked up?
Yeah. Mine's about finishing the book, not about sending it out. So failed writer counts.
Literally a failed writer. No, you're just not done yet. That's fine.
No, I'm just not done yet. I did not do
but
NaNoWriMo because, oh my gosh, I did not have time for that.
You did. We added that 10,000 words to our...
I did 10,000 words in World Anvil. Here you go. Speaking of World Anvil, Light Up the Forge, our segment about World Anvil.
So World Anvil is a sponsor. Sponsors actually various parts of the network, but also directly several shows on the network, including
Countless Heroes.
They let us use their amazing software, and in turn, we sponsor the hell out of them. So we thought maybe we'd at least talk about them over here because we love them very, very, very much.
You can get that
amazing
sweet D&D sponsorship membership.
Plus, we're going to be working with it anyway. We might as well talk about it. So
yeah, why not? What is it? What is it? Critical Role's doing? Everything is content.
Yeah, everything is content.
So I have a link I can share in chat if you want to start talking about at least one thing. So what we are currently doing in World Anvil with Countless Heroes is we are making our character articles. We are currently working on our player character articles. I have gotten a basic demo set up of one of our characters because I happened to get all the info from her and I wanted to find flower pictures. So Mari, our druid, who happens to also be one of our custom races for Vale, is my first mostly completed character sheet. And I will put a link in our video description as well if you're watching this not live. And when you take a look, you can see some of the stuff that you can set up. Oh my god, how many features you can fill out for your character. I am almost a little tempted, depending on how much you're able to fill out all of these, you might end up spending more time having headers than you do actual content. So depending on how rigorous you want to fill this stuff out, you might want to fill them out by the boxes, or you might even want to just use the main prose box at the top of your edit screen to just add a couple paragraphs about the character that might feel a little more streamlined for you, especially with NPCs. But with PCs, we wanted to give our players the opportunity to fill out as much as they wanted to express their character's personality or beliefs or social connections and things like that. Mari's an interesting case because spoilers for Countless Heroes, she's experienced being a couple of different races at this point. And because of that, I was inspired to add an article in our World Anvil about reincarnation, the spell or the ritual. And so now you can attach reincarnation as a condition that the character can be, quote unquote, suffering from. They're experiencing that condition currently. And so that's a way of marking that this character might not necessarily be the fantasy race that they had initially started out as. But yeah, so we're playing around with player articles right now, and I'm very much looking forward to the idea that we're going to have custom banners for all the PCs. So when they show up on the homepage, you see a very characteristic image for them rather than just plain header banner that doesn't really add anything to the look of the index, or doesn't add anything to the link that you've listed there. So you see Mari, and it will label that she is a Nakosta, one of the races. She's a Nakosta druid, and it shows all the sunflowers. So you get kind of a vibe for her as a character. And that might, if you use that sort of feature, that might encourage readers to check out that article. Giving it a little bit more personality and flair, I think, makes these feel a lot less like they're just, oh, that's just a list of names. It's going to be a little harder to do that with NPCs because of how many NPCs we've accumulated. But we are filling out, we easily have over 100 at this point, of varying importance. So we're going to be filling out, we're probably not going to be filling things out to this degree for the NPCs. We might not even fill out the boxes as much. We might just do a paragraph where it's a little blurb, what their race is, approximately what they look like. If we get some art, we can do art for them. But we want it to just be sort of quick and dirty so that you can see what the basics of that character are. In addition to that, in the player character area, you can actually connect other articles to that character. So we're going to be putting our downtimes in there. So you look up a character, you read all the information about that player character, and then you suddenly have, there's a bunch of prose at the bottom of the article that I can go read stories about this character. And you can link the character article to events in the timeline. So something happens, say, Mari experiences a slight change in her appearance. Could be an event on the timeline, and you can link directly to Mari's article so you can find out more about her.
I have the screen share set up. So did you want to show the back end?
Sure.
Of Mari?
Yeah.
So there, I got it up now.
Cool. I don't know what's going to do to our screen if I start sharing. Oh, you're sharing. You're sharing. I'm sharing it. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is what the back end with the character page looks like. I'm a really big fan, tangent. I'm a really big fan of the to-do list on the right side, which is in alpha testing right now, which when you make an article on the fly and I'll show you where you can make an article on the fly. If you haven't filled it out yet, it shows up on your to-do list as you made this article, but you haven't done anything with it. You should probably go do that. And you click on it and it takes you directly to the editing page for that little side article you haven't done yet. So it's a really nice reminder of the things that you need to get done. The RPG NPCs, the red box there, that's extra detail and not really useful for the PCs, and I haven't delved in as deep with that section, so we can just skip it. But you can see by the fact that there are a ton of tabs on the editing page, there's a lot of information you can fill out to an alarming amount of specificity, depending on how interested you are in really drilling down into your character. One of the things I really, really enjoy that I've just discovered, or at least I've just intuited out, is the naming tab. The naming tab lets you define. Can you go to the naming tab? That second one. So that lets you define the way that your character is referred to, but then you can also put a. Are you gonna give her a? Okay, sure. God damn it, Logan. Her middle name is not Danger. Middle name should be Danger Cat. But the nickname or alias section will show up on the main page as AKA this person. So I have found that when you put people's names as their article name, if it's a name that they don't normally go by, it actually might be a little hard to navigate, because if we say Mari's name was actually like, I don't have a good long version of Mari. And her name was Marigold. Say her name was Marigold, but we never called her Marigold. We only called her Mari. If you had a label that was Marigold Thea, and she's only been referred to as Mari, and her name tag on the stream has only ever been Mari, some people might not realize that's who that is. And so I was leaning on the idea of making it easy to navigate for the user. So her article title at the top is labeled Mari, but I put her full name in this naming tab. So what happens when you go to the actual article is Mari is in big, I think it's like H1 header. It's a real big header on the top. And then the first subheading is Mari Thea. And then there's a little paragraph underneath her, little about stuff. And I really like that for a lot of the characters who have, bless their hearts, slightly unpronounceable names, that they have a nickname that's easy to pronounce. I put the easy to pronounce nickname, the thing they're always going by, as their article title. And then you can see their full official name underneath it. So it doesn't get rid of that information. It just makes it so that's not the first thing you see. You don't have to translate in order to understand whose article you're going to. So I'm a big fan. But yeah, think about the long character profile quizzes you take for writing or for any sort of thing. That's the level of detail we're talking in here. There are a lot of... I actually find that some of this stuff, some people are like, well, I haven't thought of that yet. One of the things I like about character surveys that have a lot of questions is they make you think about your character. Like, there's a section in here in this particular tab called Failures and Embarrassments. If you haven't started playing your character yet, that's a really interesting thing to flesh out about your character. What are things? I mean, you're a hero. You succeed at a lot of things because you're meant to be this sort of heroic, victorious person. But why not think a little bit about things that they've failed at? They're mortal. They're fallible. That seems like a completely legitimate thing. No, crippling addiction to catnip. Oh no, Mari's gonna find this and it's gonna be terrible. So you can feel. Oh, I really dig how many features you have in the character thing. So we're filling these articles out for each of the player characters. What we did was one of the things I would like to see World Anvil maybe have, and I don't know if it's very useful for anybody else, but I copied and pasted all of these boxes into a document because not all of our players have access to World Anvil. And some of these tabs, just handing that out to 12 to 15 people, some people are going to need a little hand-holding to figure out how to fill stuff out. So I just gave everybody a Word document that had all of these topics and asked them, just hit enter and fill it out. Just tell me what the answers to these are. And then I copied and pasted everything. It made transferring the stuff to World Anvil take like 2-3 minutes tops per character, which was very nice. And then they could think about it on their own time in their own, whenever they had free time to plan out their character bio. That was how I did it. It'd be nice to maybe have a template that you could send to somebody if you needed that. I think the idea is that people should be able to log in here, but we're still parsing out permissions for the software, for the website, to make sure that people can access certain pages but can't see some of the secret stuff that Logan might want to start storing in here, that sort of thing. We're still parsing out the workflow for doing that. That will be on my list of to-dos at some point. But yeah, I am a big fan of these. Like I said, the specificity here. Let me see, Logan, go back to social really quick. No. Oh.
What?
I mean, yes, sure. In the social tab, let me see if it's in here.
She died this year.
That's fair. Some of these, I'm trying to figure out where they are or if they're displayed. In the area, so affiliated organizations, you go to the drop down on that one. It's the first option here. Scroll up a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I'm looking at my actual screen. I apologize.
It's okay. Is there anything that says make an article or anything like that? There's an option in here somewhere. It might not be in here. I'll have to find it. But in some of these boxes, you have an option of creating a new article. You don't have something written yet, but you realize you need an article. How this could have happened was, I have to go back into the articles area and start a new article so then I can link it in here. A lot of these boxes now have just start a new article immediately, and it will make a placeholder article that will show up in that to-do list on the right, which is really, really nice. Like, I don't have time right now. I know it has to exist. So it allows you to make it in the box. It could also be in personal. There could be one in here. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at it. That'll be a thing that I mention another time because it definitely is a feature that I really, really enjoy. It's super duper helpful. Anyway, yeah. So there are a lot of tools in here that, there it is. I see it in under ethnicity. Create a new article. The little link, the little blue link on the top of that box. Right there. That'll be a good one. Related pros. So you don't have an article yet. Scroll down a little bit so that they can see it.
Sorry.
That's okay. Try to make it in the middle of the screen. There we go. So, so you want to make a prose article and attach it to Mari's character sheet. You don't have it yet. So, but instead of having to go back and make a new article right away, you can just say, all right, I need to do this later. I'm making a prose sheet. And if you look at the screen, the to-do list, it showed up in the to-do list as a thing I need to start doing. Super intuitive. And I love that it does that. That was a nice little surprise that I discovered while I was working on these. I'm gonna have to fix so much in here. So I will be doing the World Anvil article. Oh my god. Okay, so that is a preview not a preview, that was pretty rigorous, into some of the stuff that you can do, short of reading them all out for you. Some of the things that you can do on a character sheet for World Anvil. We're gonna have one of those sheets for all of our player characters. And
that's a character article, right? Not a
that is a
sheet.
That is a character article.
Make a distinction.
Correct. You can actually have a D&D 5e character sheet, which I don't know if it's in the pipeline on the roadmap or not. There was discussion about maybe having the D&D API connecting, or at least that's a nice would like to have from World Anvil,
D&D,
so that it.
D&D Beyond has not created their API yet or finished it. So
okay.
That's where it has to start. Is D&D Beyond has to be like, yeah, here's how you connect this information. But so I don't know if that's in the pipeline. But at least maybe to Roll20 would be good, because Roll20 is done. So I think that might be a good one too. But eventually having all of these things sync together, so you can edit the sheet on, say, D&D Beyond, the most robust sheet creator, and then have that information dispersed all over. The problem then becomes rights. Can you can use it on D&D Beyond, but then are you allowed to use those same things on the other one? There's a lot of unfortunate poor issues like that with copyright that they have to deal with. So.
Sure. Really quick, Logan, is it too much trouble? Could you share the front end of the Mari character sheet? Because we didn't. I'll put a link in the video description, but it'd be nice to show them what the final look is, just to show them on the actual video. But yeah, I'm going to be working on a dozen or more of these character sheets with the help of the players who are going to be filling out the bio information. I'm still working on mine for Syl, because there's some stuff I haven't thought about a lot of the little details, thinking about her in broad strokes, and now thinking of her in a little bit more specificity. Sorry, no dead air. No dead air.
No dead air. No dead air. All right, so there's the screen again, since I closed everything. Sorry. I guess we're going to maps now. Sorry.
We will do maps. We will talk about the map. I want to get the map done.
Done?
Worked on?
It's not going to load. So what am I doing? I'm trying to get to Mario.
Go back to the character sheet. Even if it's in the edit, you can go to view person.
There we go. Okay.
So
she's a kitty cat.
She's a kitty cat. Hooray. So that's what it looks like. I have her little sunflower banner. That's what shows up on the main page when you look at the list of characters. And yeah, so she's got her art. We have transparent art so that it blends in a little bit more with the background. If you look at the top paragraph, it says her Nacosta heritage. You can tag other articles inside your text really, really easy. It auto completes for you, shows you all the articles that already exist in World Anvil, so that you can create kind of Wikipedia-esque or wiki-esque internal links that will take you to other articles. So you can navigate easily between the character to the race to other things, just sort of like go down the rabbit hole. We're trying to enable you getting sucked into this page for a while. And then on the right side, there's a sidebar that has a bunch of her basic information that you can take a look at. Like I said, it has the reincarnated condition, so you can learn about the reincarnation spell. We have a set year Nicosta has not been created yet, so it does have an access denied. I was thinking of making a placeholder article that was called Nunya Business, and it will just send you there. It's a character, and he doesn't want you to know anything yet.
We're going to try to put a little bit of information together, at least what's known on stream, but we're not sure yet what we're going to do with the 5 races we created, if we're going to be publishing those as content or paid content or putting them on DMs Guild or what. DMs Guild is probably going to be a no, only because of the copyright issues with putting things onto DMs Guild or RPG Now or any of those other sites. So we'll probably just publish them for ourselves personally. Mm-hmm. Some of that might become bonus content to access the actual races as part of the Nerdsmith network. We're just not sure, but we will definitely put an article together that at least talks about the flavor of the race, so we can get that up.
Logan, I have decided though that our access denied page is going to be Nunya Business from the 404th dimension. But yeah, so there's things in there. I will make a note. This is all still in progress. I know that we've got some broken links or things that are not quite in existence yet. But we have in her year of birth, the date is based on, I put a year in based on our current year in game, which is 1199. So she told me that Mario was 28. I just subtracted 28 from 1199, and then that was the year I put in.
But what if she hasn't had her birthday yet?
She hasn't put her. When we change the core. Shut up, Logan. When we change the core year in the campaign, she will be 29. So that will lock in. That will lock in the age for that. I kind of wish that it would display approximately how old they are based on the year you put in, because you do have to do a little bit of math outside the article to get to putting that in. That would be nice to be like a little blurb when you put a year in. It'll say that means they're this year's old, so that you know immediately, and you don't have to necessarily do a ton of math. It's not a ton of math. It's just an extra thing that would be cool if it did internally.
Right. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. That's good for now. There's a lot of stuff, and we'll be going over a lot more.
We need to do a whole stream just on World Anvil. We could easily do that, just talking about what we're doing and going through that. So that's
heck yeah.
I'm already more excited about working in World Anvil. I love World Anvil. Don't get me wrong. My brain does not work the way that World Anvil works. I don't think like that. For me to create, I bounce ideas off of people. That's why I think I'm a good DM. Other people tell me I'm a good DM. But I think it's because I am good at bouncing ideas off of people and reacting to what they give me. Just kind of talking about what Scott was talking about earlier, this idea. If I sat down to try to write a campaign, I couldn't do it. When I have to sit down and start playing. And then the ideas start to come from what the players are doing around me. I can get a couple plot hooks going. Honestly, this game, several of the plot hooks came from our prequels, but the prequels started with plot hooks I found online. I threw the plot hooks out there for several different games, and we came up with some ideas, and I went, okay, now I have a foundation I can start building upon. It's a little rocky and shaky, but the first thing I do is I relay the foundation. I use the information I gained to go, okay, now I need to know what I need to lay down to start building this world upon.
I heard Gashapon.
reacting with you, and going back and forth on it makes me more pulled into working with it. And I think that's going to be, hopefully that'll be a good thing for other people who also struggle with that, is maybe watching us kind of pull ourselves into it. We can do that as well. So I do want to definitely find some time to do that as a second stream every week somehow, at least every other week.
Welcome, Flux to Dragon. Your question of, hey, what's going on, is we're talking about D&D and all sorts of stuff. We're about halfway down our session plan. We just finished talking about World Anvil. And Logan, we have 2 more things and a dance party. Do you want to pick one of these 2 things to talk about? Would you like to hold on to the Taming of the Brew for next week? Or do you want to talk about it?
Taming the Brew, and I can talk quickly about DMing for hordes.
Yes, please. You mean hordes as in players, not as in monsters, specifically. Is that true?
There's not much of a difference. I mean, have you ever eaten with a player?
It's about agency. You don't have to run the horde if they're the players.
So DMing for hordes. The idea of this article came up because somebody the other day asked what a good group size is for D&D, and I very truthfully told them that I've got 16 players right now. but it's a West Marches style, so I only deal with 6 at a time. But also, back in my gaming at my game store days, when I owned a game store for a few years, I ran a Sunday campaign where I closed down the shop. It was not open on Sundays because the store, when I purchased it from the gentleman, was not open on Sundays. And I closed down the store, and at the store, I ran a 16 to 20 player D&D game all day Sunday. And so we could just occasionally bring up questions and talk about that. I mean, if you have any questions about DMing for larger groups, say over 6 or 7 people, I've got a lot of insight into it. I did it successfully for almost a year and a half. It takes a lot of patience. It takes the right people. And it takes people you can trust to have them go off and kind of do their own thing and maybe even DM for themselves a little bit, like make decisions about how they're going to role play between characters and things. But that's the big thing. It takes a lot of trust, and you've got to know your players. You're not going to just do a pickup 16-player D&D game. I had to vet and really be careful about who I let into that game to make sure they mesh well. And even then, there was a lot of problems, but it was a lot of fun, and it was very rewarding to have these people all succeed together the way they did. Running combat is the hardest part. I suggest you look into simplified rules for combat in those situations.
We need to talk about moments as part of your homebrew. One of the Funhouse rules segments will be about moments. But definitely getting down to the nitty gritty. But bookkeeping is the most important thing there, and bookkeeping comes down to having people in your group who identify those people who like to take notes and use them. Rule of acquisition number 222. Treat players like family, exploit them. So you make sure you use them, and as much as they are wanting to be used in those situations. But they will be more than often be happy to take notes for you, keep track of damage on creatures and things, and don't worry about players in a large group like that knowing a little bit more information, like how close the minor bad guys are to death. But I really would suggest you adopt the. There's a rule. It's called the minion rule or something like that. Basically, in D&D, the minions don't have hit points. Minions are monsters that are extra creatures. Like, here's the main bad, and he's got a horde of 50 orcs. Well, the horde of 50 orcs either all have 1 hit point, or they have, if you want them a little more powerful, they have 2 hit points, but they can only take 1 hit point at a time. So once they've been hit twice, they're down. Period. End of story. Dead. Or they're really powerful and they have 3 hit points. As soon as they're hit 3 times, they're down. So a group that gets blasted by a fireball, they all survive, or maybe you have 1/3 of them drop and 1/3 of them survive, or 2/3 of them survive. And one group of them takes 3 points and they all die. One group took 2 and one group took 1. And so there's ways of making it a lot faster. Then people don't have to roll their damage against them, and you don't have to worry about it. It's just a matter of, that one's dead. That one's got half dead. That one's 1/3 dead. Just boom, 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 3 ticks and they're done. It's a much quicker way of dealing with that, and saves a lot of dice rolls. So that's one way that we used to kind of minimize that during combat. We'll talk more about that as we go, but we are just hitting 1 minute until 12, and that means your husband will be coming home, which that sounded ominous. Your husband's coming home. Oh no.
And you're going to be getting in the car and leaving.
Yes.
So we're going to go ahead and probably need to end it there. You probably still need to pack.
No, I packed before we started stream. I was very responsible.
I was going to say, I know how you are. I know you.
I needed to be prepped. I needed to be prepped before we left in case I had to be like, okay, I have to cut stream off and then run to the car.
Perfect.
Because I'm going norther. I'm going to Atlanta, where it's very cold.
To the norther.
Well, because it's very cold, I get to wear my sill hat. For real. I'm so excited. But yeah,
right, Scott, we'll be in touch and chatting with you soon, Scott. I think I sent you a friend request. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everyone. Out the window, Logan. Out the window? Oh yeah, because your husband's home. I gotta go out the window.
Not out your window.
Yeah. Your husband's home, 3,000 miles away.
Oh God. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us on our Turkey Day morning spectacular.
I'm going to try to do a read stream right now at our normal time and see if we can rebroadcast.
That's a good idea.
We got a suggestion that maybe we should start doing more rebroadcasts. So I'm going to have that going, and then after that, if I can figure it out to schedule it, I will try to do last night's episode of our show, and maybe the previous episode every day will just get played. So that was
just got to make sure they don't upload to YouTube or something.
They don't automatically upload. The restream shouldn't upload to YouTube. So, anyways, thank you guys so very much. I really appreciate everything you guys do for us and helping us raise all that money and just being here and listening to us. We do this normally every Wednesday at noon. And very soon, hopefully, Angela will figure out some time somewhere in our busy schedules to start doing some World Anvil streaming, because we really want to we want to do that, but we also want to be a part of that. Also, we're hoping probably not, well, maybe in early December we might start looking at bringing on some guests. We've been talking about it. A lot of guests we want to have on. We'll see what's availability. But worst case scenario, it'll just be us the holiday season, and we'll look at January. If we have,
I'm thinking next year will be easiest.
Yeah, but next year will probably be easiest, and we'll be bringing on guests and doing more screen sharing and things like that, so we can really go crazy with this and just have you along for the ride. So thank you guys very much for being here.
I don't know about you, Logan. I'm excited about this show. I think it's going.
This show is rapidly becoming one of the things I look forward to every week. Also, we may be looking to add other shows on Wednesdays. Since I took Wednesdays off to do this show, we may end up adding another show on Wednesdays as well. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. We have some ideas floating out there.
It looks like Logan gets less sleep during Wednesdays.
Well, it won't be out. It sure as hell won't be after or before. It'll be sometime between 2 o'clock and our stream, and Countless Heroes. But yeah, that would basically be my Wednesdays, just running streams all day, which I would love to do. My goal would be to expand this channel and of course the network by adding a ton of new shows and new content. But we don't want them to just all be actual plays. We want to start having more talks like this and more geeky shows. We'd love to have some role-playing geeky shows, so some board game shows and some shows talking about other geeky things out there, like art or music or things like that on the show.
For example, a couple of things we have on the Nerdsmith Network include Monster Crush, which talks about it's sort of actual play, but they're also talking about dating cryptids, which is a slightly different thing than just playing D&D. And
I'd love to have them do a live stream. That'd be amazing.
And Wand Radio, which is a comedy show and not a D&D actual play, but just a comedy advice show.
We have to cut too much stuff.
I want to do Shenanigans Live. I think that would be fun.
Shenanigans Live would be great, and Wand Live would be, oh, your husband, huh?
Andy is not on camera, actually, because he's cropped too much on the screen. There is a person. There he is. Say hi to our viewers, Andy.
Hello, viewers.
Hi to the internet, like he's not on stream every weekend.
Yeah.
All right, so that's
anyway, you gotta go get in the car and go.
Yes, we have to go travel for families. So we will follow up with Taming of the Brew next week.
Maybe.
Really quick maybe. I don't know. Really quick
I don't think
preview.
We had things from last week on here.
No, we didn't. But really quick for maybe we'll hold ourselves accountable. I would like to talk about the Oath of the Common Man Paladin, which I found on Unearthed Arcana on Reddit. And yes, we can share that, or you can Google it. But it's by the singular anyone on Reddit. And I would like to talk about that a little bit. That's hopefully what we're going to do next time for Taming of the Brew, is talk a bit about the thematic and character implications of playing a communist paladin. And I very much look forward to that.
And please send your questions, your thoughts, your homebrew, whatever you want to do.
Your hopes and dreams.
Send it over to us at your hopes and dreams, please. We need
so we may consume them.
Sorry. drpg@nerdsmith.org, or you can find us at Discover RPG Show on Twitter. And you can contact us at either of those places, and hopefully soon we'll get some other social media going. So thank you guys very, very much for being here. We really appreciate it. Any last parting words, Angela?
I want that dance party. This is not dance party music. Everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're in the States. Have a wonderful week if you're not in the States.
Just eat some turkey.
Yes, just eat some turkey, maybe some mashed potatoes.
And stuffing.
You guys have
or
a
dressing,
wonderful
depending on where you are.
have a wonderful week. We will see you next week on Discover
Bye.
RPG.